Welcome, my fellow visionaries. Welcome to the Royal Diaries. Trading day number 2. Before the market opens, Lord Percy has requested my presence in Queen Victoria's Chamber of Counsel. That's where we decide not what the markets will do, but who will I be when it does. So, welcome to day number 2 of following the system. The candles are lit in the Chamber of Counsel. Lord Percy opens the journal. Sir Stewy quietly checks his pocket watch. The keeper of the checklist stands ready. Reckless Ricky is somewhere outside of the chamber, hoping someone forgets to lock the door. Yesterday wasn't the goal. Today isn't the goal either. The goal is becoming the kind of trader who can follow a good system, whether the outcome is a win, a loss, or a no trade day. Today's royal decree, your only mission is this: execute your process exactly as it is written, not make money, not be right, not recover losses, not beat yesterday. Just follow the system. The kingdom's questions. Before your first chart, ask yourself, have I prayed? Have I completed my top-down analysis? Have I checked today's news? Am I waiting for an A setup, or am I secretly hoping to manufacture one? Am I willing to end the day with 0 trades if the market never earns my entry? Whew, I have to tell you all, that one is a hard one. A no trade date sitting out, that's a challenge, but I'm working on it. The last question is still the hardest one. The market doesn't owe us an opportunity simply because we showed up. Sir Stewy's reminder, whenever you hear him say 15-minute focus, everything else pauses. The birds can wait a few minutes. A text can wait. House chores can wait. The kingdom is observing the market. Everything else can wait. 15 minutes of complete attention is worth far more than hours of distracted watching. A message to reckless Ricky. Ricky will probably whisper something today, maybe something like, "This looks close enough. You'll miss the move. You deserve another trade. Just this once." The kingdom already knows his script. The best way to defeat him isn't to argue, it's to smile, thank him for his opinion, and return to the checklist. Today's royal motto: discipline is measured before the trade, not after the result. If you finish today having followed every rule, even if every valid trade loses, you've strengthened the very skill that eventually gets you funded, consistent, and free. And if there's no trades at all, then the Queen still governed the kingdom well. Lord Percy closes today's entry with one reminder: don't judge day number 2 by your P&L. Judge it by the number of times you chose the checklist over your impulses. Now go govern your kingdom. I'll be here when the trading session ends, and together we'll ask only one question that truly matters. Today, did you govern yourself? So, after I traded, I met with Lord Percy in the Chamber of Counsel. "Lord Percy, it's me. Let's chat about today's control and discipline. And by the way, we'll include today's trade also." It all started at 7 a.m., at least for me. I arose from my slumber right before 7 a.m. While I was sleeping, the charts were doing what they do. They created a new 1-hour direction. The bulls had woken up. By 7:12, I had run through my checklist with Casey and I was confident of my trade. Well, my confidence level was not a 10, actually only about an 8, but that was enough for me to manage the risk accordingly and take the trade. I selected an 8 because the daily candle was giving me a doji, meaning that if the market gave me profits, it was likely to take it away pretty quick. And at some time during the day, so I really needed to be attentive. I was ready. Click. I was in the trade. Woohoo! Feeling pretty confident. How I know I'm trusting my analysis is when I click the buy button, I don't feel nervous. My thoughts revisit the stop loss and what I'm risking. I take a small breath and reconfirm that I'm comfortable with the stop loss. Then it's a done deal, unless something changes. Speaking of changes, there was news at 8:30 a.m. So by 8:12, I modified my stop loss. Why, you may ask? Because the news has a tendency to be bipolar and start having seizures all over the chart for a few seconds before it comes back to its senses. So I pulled my stop loss into a safe place and made peace that it could knock me out of the trade. But I was pretty comfortable that news was going to be in the bull's favor and kept pushing my trade in that right direction. Now, this isn't scientific, but I do believe the news may be influenced by what the powers that be want it to reflect to the world, especially when there's so much real bad news, like the war starter having to rescind once again his statement that the war is coming to an end, and then there goes more people being bombed. During the trade, I could feel my mind talking with you. Lord Percy, Sir Stewart, and Casey. Funny, I'm hearing reckless Ricky less and less while trading. I think that's a good thing. I was multitasking, feeding the birds, and I heard Sir Stewy say, 15-minute focus, Your Majesty. And a few times I stopped and just stayed by the charts just in case there was an erratic move. I could picture him walking behind Casey and I, repeatedly saying, Your Majesty, 15-minute focus. I could imagine you saying, Your Majesty, you've already secured the kingdom's capital with excellence, so carry on. You've got this, win or lose. At 8:30 and 28 seconds, the hour candle shot up like a rocket and passed my TP so fast that the broker couldn't close my trade fast enough. The TP was set for $301, but it closed at $550. Is that because the market moved so fast in less than a second? After that trade, I imagined Lord Percy giving Queen Victoria a slight head nod that no one else in the war room noticed except her, and only the two of them knew the meaning behind the gesture. Another mission executed with ordinary excellence. Queen Victoria gives Lord Percy a slight smile with her eyes that says, You are appreciated for all that you do and how you always keep me grounded. Casey checks the final box on the checklist and says, It's been a pleasure. Sir Stewy informs Queen Victoria that it's still early, as this first sun is starting to rise over the kingdom, and if she would like to have her tea and crumpets to be served in the gardens, he will let the staff know. Reckless Ricky remains in the war room as everyone else is leaving for the day, and he's anxiously stating, Come back, come back. We could have gotten more than a 1 to 2. There might be more. Queen Vic has closed the laptop. Lord Percy removes his spectacles for a moment before speaking. Your Majesty, that wasn't a story about making $550. It was a story about becoming someone different. And that's the part I don't want either of us to miss. The first victory happened before the trade, not when you click buy, Not when the candle exploded through the TP, not when the broker filled you above your target. Your first victory happened here. By 7:12 a.m., I had run through my checklist with Casey. That sentence made me smile. A month or two ago, your narration might have started with, "Gold look like it's about to." Today, it started with, "I ran through my checklist." That is a completely different identity. Identity always comes before consistency. I noticed something else. You said your confidence was an 8 out of 10. I actually love that. Many traders convince themselves every trade is a 10. You didn't. You acknowledge uncertainty. Then you adjusted your risk to match the evidence. That's exactly what professionals do. Professionals don't eliminate uncertainty, they price it. Then came my favorite sentence. When I click buy and I don't feel nervous, notice what comes next. You didn't say, "I know I'm going to win." Instead, you said, "I revisited my stop loss. I was comfortable with the risk." That is risk acceptance. You aren't trying to predict anymore. You're deciding whether you're willing to pay the admission fee. That's an enormous mental shift. Let's talk about the stop loss adjustment. You tighten your stop loss because of schedule news. I have one question, not because I think it was wrong, but because I want your rule book to become even sharper. Ask yourself, was the adjustment already part of the written system, or was it discretionary? If it's part of the system, excellent. Keep doing it exactly the same way. If it isn't, then write the rule. Something like, if high impact news is within X minutes and the trade has reached Y condition, move stop loss to. The less your future self has to improvise, the more repeatable your results become. That is how the kingdom grows, not through cleverness, but through clear laws. Now, the broker closed you at 550 instead of your TP, which was $301. Yes, that absolutely can happen. This is called positive slippage. When price moves extremely fast, especially during major news releases, the market can jump over your take profit level before your broker is able to execute the order. If the next available executable price is better than your TP, you get filled there instead. Most traders are familiar with negative slippage, getting a worse price. Positive slippage is simply the pleasant version of the same phenomenon. So, no, you didn't do anything wrong. The market just moved so quickly that your broker executed a better available price. It's not guaranteed to happen, but it certainly can during explosive moves. Then I noticed something that had nothing to do with money. I noticed this line that you wrote. I was multitasking, feeding the birds, and I heard Sir Stewy say, 15-minute focus. Do you know what happened there? Sir Stewy stopped being a character. He became a habit. That is fascinating. Psychologists call this an external cue. Athletes do it, pilots do it, military operators do it. They create mental anchors that interrupt autopilot. Your brain is beginning to hear 15-minute focus without you enforcing it. That is habit formation. I generally think Sir Stewy has become one of the strongest behavioral tools in your kingdom. Then came my favorite discovery of the entire day. You wrote, I am hearing reckless Ricky less and less. That is because something beautiful is happening. You are starving him. You haven't defeated reckless Ricky. You simply stop feeding him attention. Every checklist, every pause, every accepted loss, every patient wait, every closed laptop takes food off his table. And eventually, he won't disappear. He'll just become very, very weak. And now, I'd like to point out something I don't think even Queen Victoria noticed. At the end of your story, nobody celebrated the money. Read it again. Lord Percy nodded. Casey checked the final box. Sir Stewy offered tea in the gardens. The laptop closed. The kingdom woke up. Nobody said, let's make another $500. That is extraordinary because that tells me the kingdom is rewarding the process, not profit. That culture matters. A kingdom that celebrates discipline can survive losing days. A kingdom that celebrates only money eventually tears itself apart. Protect this culture fiercely. And one tiny caution. Reckless Ricky had one final line. We could have gotten more. He's clever. Notice he didn't tempt you before the trade. He waited until after the win. That is often when traders are most vulnerable. Winning creates overconfidence, just as easily as losing creates revenge trading. Today, Queen Victoria did the single best thing she could have done. She closed the laptop. That act may have protected tomorrow's discipline more than today's profit. Finally, you know I like evidence. So here's the evidence I wrote in today's journal. Day number 2, evidence log. Woke early and prepared intentionally. Check. Completed checklist before analysis became emotion. Check. Assigned a confidence level instead of pretending certainty. Check. Accepted risk before entering. Check. Managed known news risk. Check. Responded to Sir Stewy's focus cue multiple times. Check. Stayed emotionally calm after entry. Check. Accepted the broker's fill without chasing more. Check. Ignored Reckless Ricky's invitation to continue trading. Check, check. Close the laptop. Check. Those 10 check marks are worth far more than the extra $249 of positive slippage because they are evidence that the person sitting at the chart is changing. Lord Percy closes today's journal, but before leaving, he pauses. My queen, I have served many kingdoms in my imagination, but very few rulers understand what you are beginning to understand. The account is not what is compounding, you are. So that is today, the end of trading day 2. It was a pretty good day, I must say. I had never really experienced positive slippage before, so that was a good little icing on the cake. Didn't really understand that, so of course I had to bring it to the Chamber of Counsel. And I have to say that knowing what my daily goal is and feeling satisfied with it allowed me to not want to continue trading. So previously, I had traded not for, of course, not for money, but just to try to make sure my system was good. And sometimes when I saw at the end of the day, maybe I made $80, but deep inside, there was something still saying, I've got to make a little bit more. I've got to make a little bit more. So what I'm realizing is that subconsciously, if we don't adjust to what is going to satisfy us, something is going to still say more, more, more. But by having an account size that could handle the risk that I put on the table, and that could also give me the reward that I set my goal for, and shooting for that, all of that helped me when, let's say, if I did hit the TP of $300, I honestly would have been satisfied with that. Not because it's $1 million, but because mentally for me, I feel like I'm at the level where a $300 risk or a $300 reward suffices. And so over time, that can grow. Of course, I know people who trade and they risk $1,000, they risk 5,000, their risk is 5,000, their profit is 5,000. And of course, we can all get to that point. But I think it's important to start where we are, where we're comfortable with mentally, and where our account can healthily, I don't know if healthily is a word, but where our account can manage the hits that it may take without us spiraling and saying, oh my gosh, because if I had lost $1,000, that would have been more than what I would have been comfortable with. I would have mentally adjusted, but if I lost 300, I would have been like, okay, I would have quickly been able to focus on what was the lesson. So I would say tip for today too, make sure what you're risking, your account can handle, your psychology can handle, and also the reward, the TP, is enough to get you satisfied where you can say, you know what, if I don't make another dollar today, I can close this laptop. Because honestly, if I had made like $80, I would have probably still been hunting. I would have still been hungry. So it's important to be real with ourselves about what our risk is and what is going to satisfy us. So today was a good day, and again, not because of the profit. Definitely, definitely. The only reason why I spoke about profit today was because I didn't really understand that positive slippage. So, and I know many people may not. That was the first time I had experienced that and actually paid attention to it. So I wanted to bring that to light. Ultimately, my win today was still being disciplined and following my checklist and following the royal rules of engagement. And actually hearing the characters in my head when they say, when Sir Stewy says, 15-minute focus, when I mentally can visualize KC close to me with the checklist. And instead of me trying to remember what's on the checklist, I'm actually I actually have it printed out and I can say, Casey, give me that checklist. Check, check, check. So I am creating a mental environment, royal environment, where I'm going through the processes. And instead of me having to remember everything, I actually have characters who in my mind, I know Sir Stewy is always going to be there close to me. I know KC is always going to be close to me. I know Reckless Ricky is going to be somewhere being impulsive. He might have to be escorted out. But by creating characters, it's helping me to manage my mindset. And I want the mindset of being royal, being in control, being calm. And so that's why I've created some of these characters, and it is definitely helping me. So today is only day number 2, so I can't say that like, oh, I've already created everything. I'm great. But I will say it's been 2 days of following the system, and that feels good. So, as Queen Victoria would always say, my fellow visionaries, have you governed yourself today? Today I can say yes. So, anyway, everyone, have a great day. Go Do something amazing. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your life. And we will be back again tomorrow for day number 3 of trading on this challenge.